Hi, my name is Gary. Welcome to this video looking at some monitoring tools which you can grab for free. Each of these obviously is very good for hearing your tracks, hearing your music in different ways. But also there are some additional benefits you can get from these as well, which is why I thought it was worth making a video on them to make people aware, if they perhaps weren't aware, that these were out there and available for free. So what I've got, ignore the grey track for now. We'll listen to the green one. So what I've got is I've put a track on here to play, something I did a few years ago for a little bit of fun, just so we've got some music to hear. And then we'll listen to these three plugins and see what they can do one at a time. So the first one being the BrainworxBXSolo. So what this allows you to do is swap left and right, so you can check that your mix still sounds the same, or it still stands up if you swap the left and right speakers over, which is often quite a nice different perspective to gain on something. You can solo the left and the right individually to hear what's going on. You can also solo the mids and the sides individually and have a stereo width. So let's have a little listen to that and see what that gives us. So let's start with swapping the left and right. Okay. Let's have a listen to the left. And the right. And just the mids, which would be akin to listening in mono. And let's listen to the sides. All well and good. Now we also have a stereo width control. So let's put it in the mids only for a moment. Put that, say, to 150. And turn it off. And the way that this is working is it's simply turning up the side information. It's not doing anything in terms of stereo making, so if you put a mono signal in it, it's not going to do anything. But the beauty of that is if you collapse it back to mono, so I'll hit my mono switch up here and you'll hear it does no damage whatsoever. Let's move this on a little bit. So no matter what I do to this stereo width, if we're listening in mono, there's no damage being done at all. Which is often worth checking anytime you're using any form of stereo widening plugins, just to make sure that everything still checks out in mono. So that's the BXSolo, useful. The next one I want to show you is from Pro Audio, and it's a plugin called isol8 or isol8. And this gives us a lot of similar sort of things. We can monitor the left, right, mids and sides. And in addition to that, we also have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bands of crossover. So we can listen to individual frequency areas of our track. So let's play some of that and let's listen to, say, the low mids. Or the high mids. Or the high frequencies. Now the real power of this comes into its own if you were to have, say, your mix running through into a bus, and then also have a reference track running into the same bus, and you swap between them. So let's say, just for example, let's duplicate this. Let's make this one red, so you get the idea. And then put a new track in. So if I copy both of these and push them into, that. Try again. Just 2 of them selected, not 3. Silly boy. So they're now both being bussed through this track here at the top. Like so. So that one's, and so is that one. So if imagine the red one was our reference, and the green one's our reference, the red one was our mix, we can individually compare back and forth elements of our mix with elements of the reference track. So we'd hear, for example, how our mix shapes up in any particular area or numbers of areas we want, and see if we're close to what we're hoping to achieve. Very useful. There's another plugin that I use from Adapter Audio from Plugin Alliance, Metric AB, which does a similar thing and an awful lot more. And it's a very expensive plugin. It's an excellent plugin. It's probably the best comparison plugin on the market. But this gets you some of the way there and some of the benefits for free. There's also another little trick that we can do with this, which I'll show you in a second. We'll return back to it. Let's turn it off for the moment. And we'll go to the third one. Again, another free plugin. And this one is for for stereo control, and also for making the bass safe with what will be an elliptical filter here. So you can open it up at default. So we have a pan, we have a stereo width control, so you can move things about. So this is perhaps handy for people that don't have this sort of option on their DAW. It's something that I have here in Reaper, where I use a pan, and then I also have a separate width as well, which works similar sort of way to this, only it doesn't overextend. The width will only go up to 100% here, whereas this will go to 200%, so you can actually add stereo widening. And also the safe bass. So what we don't want, for example, is lots of bass end coming out of the sides. So if we're thinking of the audio in terms of mid-side, we would like to focus the lower end into the mids. On the sides is a nice place for the higher stuff to live, and also all the fancy whiz-bangs and effects and reverbs and delays and such. So let's have a little listen to the same track and move some things around in here and see what we get. So if we mute the sides out, just listen to the mids. There's no damage being done there. So listen to the sides, so we can hear the width going on. Put it into mono, we don't hear anything on the sides, so that works. So put it back to normal. So if we listen to the sides only and introduce our safe bass, anything under this number here gets monoed down to the middle. So you can hear, as I set that frequency up, those anything below 500 Hertz is now being cut from the sides. So I could dial this into however I want, whatever it is that my taste depicts at the time. Maybe add some width. Turn it off. Back on. And there you go, a nice simple tool. Again, you can swap left and right as a phase flip on it, and completely free. Probably, if you don't have a tool that does this, it's worth sometimes having in the chain. It'd be worth you having, so that you have got access to an elliptical filter to mono the bass out and remove it from the edges of your tracks. Especially useful in VSTI instruments, synths and pianos and stuff like that. All too often, what you don't notice is there are massive amounts of low end appear through the synthesis process, and it's stuff often you can't hear. It's so low you can't hear, but it builds up across a mix, and you end up with losing a massive amount of headroom for the bass that you want to actually use, the bass that you want to actually hear. You're fighting against all this low subsonic stuff that you can't hear, and it's just eating away at available space for you, available headroom. So the other thing I was going to show you with the isol8, so if I drag this onto this track here, we'll just, pardon the pun, we'll just isolate it for now. So this is a bass guitar. So you're probably familiar with the idea of splitting bass tracks into two and solidifying, making one and concentrate on the low end only, and then solidifying that with lots of leveling, compression, etc. And using a crossover between the two. So this is where isol8 will also come in and help. If I open up the plugin, it should be set to default, which it is. Let's check that one as well, both on default. So if I play both these back together and flip one out of phase, a simple null test, they're both exactly the same. So if I go to this lower one, so we'll make that the low one, we'll give it a color so we know it's low. There you go. So let's put this on low frequency solo, and maybe we'll change the crossover to be 150. We'll go up to our other one, we'll change that to be the same, and we'll put that on low frequency mute. So we've just now used that plugin as a crossover. If I put this on to loop for a second. So that's without the phase flip. So that's our low one. And that's everything above 150. If I put the phase flip on, it's going to clean up the area where these two cross over. So if they're with high pass, low pass filters, there's usually a bump on the shoulder of the curve, plus any residual processing we do where we might start increasing the frequencies from the low one, for example. We start adding saturation to that, we're going to bring up higher frequencies on it. And just by knocking the higher one out of phase, so its phase is inverted 180 degrees, it solves that problem of a build-up in that area around the crossover for us and gives us a cleaner result, which we can hear by just turning it on and off. And now we're all set, ready to add our processing on both tracks, and job done. And no worrying about how to set up a crossover, blah 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 blah. We're simply using the isol8 program to do that. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please consider to like and subscribe, ring the bell so you get notified of the next video. Thanks for watching, good luck with your productions, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.